All right, what is it, 2006 CRF 250R? Right, we had to use the steering wheel puller to pull the magneto. We got that off, and now we're rebuilding the whole bottom and top end from a busted case. And from there, we're gonna make little templates as where all the bolts are. Gotta take the sprocket off. We'll remove the top half, the keepers for the cam and the bearings, get the chain off, make sure it's in top dead center before you start tearing anything off, and we'll go from there. Okay, in order to find your top dead center before you start tearing it off, the little cam lines right there, if you can see them, one there, have to be level with the head, and make sure you're on the compression stroke. Take the tensioner off now that we got it in top dead center. I put all my parts in the box, everything, the bolts and screws. If you're not used to knowing what all the screws are or what they look like for each part, just put them with the part itself. We have a whole gasket kit, so we're not even worried about the gaskets. But if you are, you can take them off and save them. We've got it in top dead center. We have our tension off the chain. As you can see, the chain is a little loose. You can move it kinda. We're going to continue with the tear down. Looks like the top cam holders is a number 10. Remove those down. If it was a one-hole piece, you would have to take them off in a cross pattern, but because they're just two, just taking two off, it's not a big deal. Make sure the bolts are the same, which in this case they're not. So you'll want to see which side is taller and which one took the bigger bolts before you just go slinging it around. You can tell by putting it in there. See that those two go all the way down, and they go down like they're supposed to. So the longer ones go to the exhaust side and the shorter ones go to the intake side. The intake side is obviously the one that intakes the fuel from the carburetor. The exhaust side is clearly the one that the exhaust hooks up to. And then we'll take these little caps off. Get us a rubber mallet, that way we don't damage nothing. Pop them off. They have keepers on them. These have been jumped into already. You can tell they're all beat up and eat up. My rule of thumb is if they don't come out, don't take them out. If they come out, stick them to the side so you don't lose them. Try to get these out evenly. See if they're gonna come out or not. They're not going anywhere. And this side kept one of its keepers, so we know that dial pins. So we know that the one with the missing dial pin goes there. Simple as that. Now we can go ahead and get the cam out and remove it from the chain. It's a little tricky. Just like that. And in this case, we're building a whole bottom end, so we can just let the chain go. If you were planning on just replacing a piston or something and you didn't want to tear open your bottom end to retrieve your chain, make sure the chain doesn't fall down into the case. Underneath the cam, you have what are called buckets and shims. This is what the cam lobes obviously rest on. When you pull the bucket out, sometimes the shim likes to stick to inside here, so you want to make sure that you don't do that, or that you don't drop it, excuse me. So we're gonna pull them both out. Intake side looks like it's the only thing that has buckets, and the exhaust springs don't have any buckets at all. They're just actuated by this rocker arm. So I'm gonna get a magnet and we're gonna pull out our little shims. There's one. There's two. We just don't wanna lose them, that's it. All right, so. It looks like we are able to remove the head. The head comes off just with 4 bolts, one here, one inside here, and one inside there. And then there's 2 8s on the outside here. We remove them as well, and we can get the head off. You don't have to worry about removing the water lines or antifreeze lines or anything like that. All right, we're gonna get these head bolts off. Even though there's only 4 bolts, but on the head you want to take off them in a cross hash pattern. Maybe my drill will take them off, maybe it won't. Got one. All right, Osama, you want to just hold this engine so. Oop. Just spun off that one. Yeah, no wonder it couldn't get that one off. I know we might not have the best tools in the world or the most conventional way to do things, but we get it. These are just little cap bolts. Nothing too serious. There are washers underneath each one of them, so you want to make sure you don't lose any of them. Once again, if you're just building your top end, you're not going down too low. For us, it doesn't quite matter. I'm gonna get a number 8 and get the ones off the side. All right, and our head basically popped up on its own, which is kind of nice. Or excuse me, yeah, our head. Want to make sure we don't lose those washers. Washer number 1. Washer number 2. Those go under the inside head stud bolts. There's none on the outside. Maybe we'll end up putting some there because I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be there. But we'll check the manual for that. This will be going in the parts box for now. Looks like our valves are in great shape. There's no buildup of carbon. The springs feel pretty good, not weak. So I would say that is a good head to go back on. No issues there. That goes in. Now when we put the new one back in, we don't want to necessarily be hitting on a bunch of stuff because you don't want your fingers on it usually, so we'll end up just dropping it in like that and letting it go. But when you take out an old one, it doesn't really matter. Just get the thing off. Here's our piston. We're getting a new Wiseco put in here. This is a nice one to begin with. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a Wiseco itself, being that it's got a part number right here on top. But we'll see when we pull it off. We got some Allen keys holding the cylinder on. And our first guide can come out. That's our chain guide. Once again, if you weren't going to be doing your bottom end and you had all your covers on, you want to make sure that you don't let this drop in. Otherwise, you're going to cause yourself a whole lot more work that is really just unnecessary. Usually I put a zip tie on it or something so it can't fall down in there. You know, but in our case, it can come right off from the bottom half. From inside here, it goes right on that gear right there to the top of the engine. So you would normally drop it in, but you guys will see all that on the build. Okay, also you have Carter pins. This is getting a new crankshaft, but we want to make sure we don't lose these Carter pins because that's what the magneto rides on right here inside this here. It keeps it all in time with the ignition spot here on the magneto. So every time that passes by, it tells the motor where it's at when to spark. So you don't want to move, you don't want to lose that Carter pin. Very, very important. I need a pair of needle nose pliers to put it back together. There's your little pin. It's like a keeper. I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology with a Carter pin. I forget what it's called, but that's what I call it. Basically, everything becomes a Carter pin with me. Excuse me. All right. So when we pulled that magneto, it looked like it twisted that end of that crank. But luckily, you're getting a new one. So you don't have to worry about it. We didn't have the right 24 millimeter puller. We had a 28 and everyone all around it. So we ended up just doing the steering wheel puller and it popped right off. So now we're gonna get this Allen key out and remove the cylinder. Is it recording?
Yeah.
Now's a good time to check everything that's in the bottom of your engine. Like I just found this thread. Looks like there's a thread going completely out of something. And then we'll check this filter. It's definitely got some gunk in there. Luckily, it's just a quick blow and clean out there.
Just more gunk.
Looks like a dead moth. That's awesome. I'm just gonna pick him right out of there.
There's some gunk in the back.
Definitely a dead moth. There's some stuff in there, but that'll all get cleaned out on the rebuild. This basically just catches anything that flows down to the bottom of your engine. When the oil settles, it just catches anything while it's splashing around in there. When it settles, when you're moving your bike around, it constantly is catching things. Especially when it goes from one side of the engine to the other, this filters out again. You just pop it right out of there. So now we're gonna remove our chain guide. And don't quote me on any of this terminology because I got so many things going on here at Sampson Services, I can't remember half of what everything's called. Okay, when we pulled out this chain guide here, we see that there's a little spacer, so we want to make sure we don't lose that spacer. See it right there? And guys, this is for a 2006 Honda CRF 250R. So if you got one of these and you got any questions, watch the video, comment. I answer all my comments. Even if you want to tell me what I'm doing wrong, that's cool too. All right, let's get this sprocket off. That's next in line. It's like a 12 or a 13. It's a 12. It's the tusk puller. It's got little divots out here that hold whatever you need to hold, basically. So many, many different things you can use it for. Something else. All right, make sure you pay attention to how your washers went on and stuff. Those are not supposed to be like that. This was supposed to be this way and then this on it, and that would have kept it from spinning, but they put it on upside down. Oh nope, that's side out. So something isn't right that's allowing this to spin along the side of the sprocket here. We'll figure that out later. All right, there's also a little spacer in here. You don't want to lose that. It's on basically all dirt bikes. All right, and then what I do is I get out a little sheet of cardboard, get a Sharpie, I draw the engine case. I put holes wherever there's a bolt, little dots, and poke a hole in it with a screwdriver, and keep track of every single bolt. That way you don't lose them and forget where they went. I'm gonna draw that. We'll be right back. Basically like this. You can't pull this out until you get the other side off. Basically there's nothing left to take off but the screws. We're gonna go ahead and get the other side with the clutch and everything. Looks like we've got an 8-up cover. I'll have to check that out. We'll also take these out, make sure the cover off, make sure that the screws aren't different, or if the screws are different, we'll make a template so we know exactly where they go. This is the clutch cover. We definitely got different size. Probably have a lot of oil coming out. We drained it, but There's still gonna be some in there. All right, so we got that cover off. Now we're gonna go ahead and get the clutch basket off and the clutch plates. Looks like we've got 3 number 8s and 2 number 10s, which is incorrect altogether, but it just shows you somebody else in here. These have springs on them for when you pull the clutch. The springs push them back in place. Each screw has a washer. Make sure you don't lose them. These washers come off, so you want to keep them all together in one spot. Get your springs out of there. And we'll get us a number 10. Take out those janky screws there. Take the basket out. The clutch is in really good condition. Nothing looks too crazy. You want to just check the level of your sections there. Make sure you still got some good meat on the bone. And it seems like these are in pretty good shape. And you got this that operates the clutch from the clutch lever. It pushes on the basket. You can go ahead and get the bar out with it. Sometimes you can't. Like that.
Someone's bent this.
Yeah, they're supposed to be bent. These are, you have to beat down the edge of this. It keeps the bolt from being spun off over time and time of torquing the engine over and over again. Okay.
Go.
You got it? All right, we're gonna knock those lips flat. Just using a flathead screwdriver and a rubber mallet. Something's reverberating. Do you hear that? All right, then we get a socket to take this off. I have my biggins here. Look at that. First come, first serve. You got it. Popped it right off. This only goes in one place. It has a washer behind it and 2 little spots that hook on to a little star pattern here. So you have to make sure it hooks back onto one of those little star patterns, one of those little lips there. Then we can pull the basket out. Keep all the clutch plates intact. Make sure there's no washer behind. We do have some bearings here and a spacer. So what I like to do is put them bearings back on there, put it in there where it goes, and get a zip tie and zip tie all the way around it. Template like this, poke holes where all the screws go, and put all the screws in their proper holes. That way we don't get them mixed up. So I'm just gonna pull this Allen key out that holds the cylinder down. Apparently it was the tightest bolt on the planet and caused me to hurt myself. But it happens with the game. There it is. Then we'll get our rubber mallet, tap her on up a little bit. There we go. Cylinder looks pretty good. We got a little bit of scoring here, which is nothing for a little hone. We got a little bit of scoring here, but I don't feel anything with my finger. Nothing crazy superficial. The lip here looks good. This is a nickel sill cylinder, so if you did have some major scoring, you can't hone it. It does not have a sleeve. So usually a downfall in my opinion, but it is good. It looks really good. So luckily we don't have to worry about nothing like that. Usually they have a sleeve they press in them, you know. But in this you see no no transition from any metal. Usually the sleeve is a different type of metal. It's usually like iron or something like that. A different material than that. This is just coated nickel silver. But the hash, look at the hash marks in there. I don't know if you guys can pick up those hash marks, but they look pretty legit. Not too bad looking. That's what you want to see there. The piston does have some wear, has some scoring on the sides. Oil rings look great, no issues, but we are going with a new one nonetheless. Somebody has been in here because this is a DK gasket. It's not factory Honda. We've got replacements for that as well. And we'll just continue with the right-hand side. Right, so we made our template. This is, once again, the Honda 2006 CRF 250R. And we're going to take every single little screw and we're going to put them where they go. One in the hole. Somebody wants to hold this for me so I can. There we go. That's not working very well. Water pump seal. We'll be replacing that. Looks like it's in good condition. The impellers look great. We'll see if it's spinning. Yep, it's spinning. So we're good. That can be put back on without any issues. We'll go ahead and remove that with a number 10. Hold the piston. Because they are not detrimental to removing the case, splitting the case. Wipe off as much oil as we can so the tape sticks. Put together, it can go in the box now. You don't have to worry about all your little pieces flying apart. All right, this is what keeps tension on the shift fork. We're gonna go ahead and remove the dog gear. I think that's what that's called. Don't quote me. Or that might be a transmission term, I'm not too sure. This thing likes to crazy when you take it off, so be careful, kind of try to hold it with your thumb, that way you're not jerking around a bunch of little gears and stuff. And then make sure that's going to move out of our way. So I can pop that thing out of there. There we go. There she goes. It fits on a little nipple down in there, so you can't really mess that up. Also, you want to make sure that you put Loctite on the bolt when you go and set it back in there. This bolt needs Loctite all the time. Actually, it looks like they had a little bit on there, but not much. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the little arm here as well. Looks like it's number 10. Spring just pulls right on out. Has a washer on the back half, just like this. There it is. Just got to make sure that this little hook hooks that arm when you put it back in. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, this is the starter gear here. Just go ahead and remove that. Pull the whole thing out. Make sure you don't lose a bunch of stuff on the back. It's got a spring. This little ramp here goes underneath this. So when you put it in there, you get it in place, set it down, put your spring back on. But we'll go with that with the rebuild. That pulls right off. You want to make sure you don't have any washers in the back. In this case, we do. So we're going to zip tie this. Got to get rid of this little channel here. It's to get water to the rest of the head. It's got a little O-ring. Want to make sure that we put that back in there when the time comes. And now I'm just going to sit it right back in its little home on the other side of the case. And we're going to remove these gears. These gears are probably going to be pretty tough to get off. Maybe not, but we'll see. Old piston. Just a little back and forth womping action. That'll get it off there. We'll pull this gear, put it back here, pull this gear, set it there as well. Make sure there's no washer in the back. And we'll tape this together just so we know that it all went like that. Go ahead and try to get the next one. Not the same size. Either. There we go. Number 18, 19, excuse me. That's a free spinning gear, so we're going to want to get some kind of holder in place. It's got a washer. Two gears come apart. No back washer. Okay. We got another washer down here that went with our shifter. So we need to get our shift port. Make sure we get that washer back on there. Just like that. That way we don't lose it. And basically here, you're ready to split the case. You're going to remove your bearing retainers. This usually isn't necessary to remove for the shift spring. We'll find out here shortly. And that looks like it's about it. So then you're ready to turn over to the other side and start removing all that. Thank you. This is the counter shaft bolt. Counter shaft that we were just fell out on its own. Goes in there like that. And this gear goes under it and rides on this little arm like so. If I don't lose it first, rides in there like that through this little arm. You can go ahead and pull that out. There's no washer, no bearing, no nothing behind it. It sits where it's supposed to when the gear on the other side goes where it's supposed to. I'll go ahead and put it in. Basically splitting. Having a hard time.